Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swaminiti Namini. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sakagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namo Sute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarbyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namagam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Isvaraka Paramaga Krishnaga Sachidananda Vigraga Anadi Radhi Govindaga Sarvakarana Karanam Hare Krishna. By Krishna's causeless mercy, we are able to study Bhagavad Gita, the king of knowledge, Raja Vidya, the purest knowledge, Pavitram, and the most confidential knowledge, that is Raja Guhyam, also Paramam Guhyam. So in this Bhagavad Gita, now we are in the 13th chapter. We finished off of the 13th chapter. So that is Krishna is answering Arjuna's question. So questions actually. In one sloka itself, Arjuna asked several questions. So he asked Krishna that Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnam Evacha Yetat Veditum Ichami Jnanam Nyayam Cha Kesam. So that's what Arjuna asked. So what is Prakriti? That is nature. Purusha, the enjoyer. And there is Prakritim Purusham Chaiva. And what is Kshetra? The field, and Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. So, and the knowledge and the object of knowledge, Jnanam and Nyayam. So, all these things Arjuna asked, and Krishna explained very clearly everything which we understood. What is Kshetra, Kshetrajna? Krishna started with Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Even though Arjuna asked the first thing itself, what is Prakriti and Purusha, Krishna is answering them as the last thing. And about the Prakriti, Krishna is continuing even in the 14th chapter. The entire 14th chapter is titled as the three modes of material nature. So there also we understand everything about Prakriti, the three modes of nature. So what we understand about Kshetra, Krishna is teaching us that Kshetra is the field of activities. It refers to everything in this material world other than soul. So that's what is called Kshetra. Everything, especially our body. Everything other means especially our body. Our body is made up of this nature, this material nature, this material world, matter. Our body is made up of matter, and we are not this body. It's a very simple way, very easy way to understand that we are not the part of this material nature. We are the soul. We are not the body. We are the soul. So that knowledge, if you understand, so then we are in knowledge. Otherwise, we are ignorant. Otherwise, we can simply call ourselves, we are fools. If we don't have the knowledge that we are not the body. We need to understand. So that's why Krishna is teaching, even in the 7th chapter, in the sloka number 4 and 5, Krishna is very clearly teaching us that out of here, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So there is Bhumi, Apo, Analo, Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhir, Evacha. Ahankaram iti yamme binna prakriti astata. So that is my separated material nature. That's what Krishna is saying. These 8 So there is mind intelligence and false ego also. So that we need to understand. That's also a part of Krishna's energy. It's also a part of, it's a separated nature, basically. So, but Krishna is teaching us that in the next sloka, this sloka number 5, apareyam vitastvanyam prakritim viddhi me para. So all these things are apara, means they are inferior nature, but there is something superior energy of mind is there. You understand it. So apareyam vitastvanyam prakritim viddhi me param. So what is that superior nature? So there is the soul. So that's what we understand. There is para prakriti. So we are not a part of this material nature. So we are the soul. So we have permanent existence. So we are always there. So that's what we understand from Bhagavad Gita, that the soul never gets destroyed. Na hanyate hanyamane sarire. When this body is killed, when this body is destroyed, the soul is not destroyed. That's what na hanyate hanyamane sarir. So we are that soul. We are not this body. We are the soul, and we are never get destroyed. Veda vinashinam nityam. So we are avinashinam nityam, and the soul is always there. Vayenam veti hamtaram yaschainam manyate katam. Ubhautav na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyati. One who thinks that the soul is the killer or the soul can be killed, both of them are not in knowledge. That's what Krishna is teaching us. Because the soul can never kill and the soul can never be killed. We already studied all these things in the second chapter. So that's what we understand. So Krishna is teaching very clearly that we are always there and there is no death at any point of time for the soul. So especially in the second chapter, sloka number 11 to 30, in those 20 verses, Krishna has very, very clearly explained to us all these things. So neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it is its slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So that's what Krishna is teaching. So the soul can never kill and the soul can never be killed. So that's why its line is in knowledge. So now we are that soul and we are not killed, but our body is destroyed. Our body is made up of matter. Our body is killed. And all the problems we are facing, all the sufferings we are experiencing, that is because of our ignorance, because of not knowing about our own self. So because of that reason, we are actually struggling and suffering in this material world. The simple reason, the only reason is actually it's because of our ignorance. That's the reason we are struggling and suffering. Once we get this knowledge, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So what is the point in getting all the knowledge about this matter? Of course, we have huge universities, big universities and systems, and there are thousands and thousands of libraries with so much of publications, journals, this and that, and a lot of research going on everything in this material world about the matter. What's the use of knowing all these things if we don't know about our own self? If we don't know that we are the soul, we are not a part of this material world. So everything is useless. That means without knowing the Bhagavad Gita knowledge, because in Bhagavad Gita only Krishna is teaching us all these things about ourselves, about the soul, about the material nature, about the three modes of material nature, and how we are influenced by these three modes of material nature, and how we can free ourselves from the three modes of material nature. All this knowledge, everything is given in just one book, just 18 chapters, 700 verses, everything is given here. So we need to understand this Bhagavad Gita. If you understand this Bhagavad Gita fully, so then we know everything. So that's what we are doing, and we will, and anyone who has got faith in this knowledge, they will get this knowledge. That's the only qualification needed. So there is no need for being super intelligent or something like that. If we just have faith on this knowledge, we are going to simply get this knowledge. So faith is the only qualification needed to get this knowledge. That's what Krishna says that Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatparaga samyate indriyaga jnanam labdva param shantim nachirena achirena adhikachadi. That's what Krishna is saying. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So there is a faithful man. So that's what is the faith. If you are ignorant, if you don't have faith, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures, that means who doubt this Bhagavad Gita, do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So that way, the real happiness, if you want to experience only with this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, having faith on this Bhagavad Gita, so only with that only we can actually get really experience the real happiness. So that's why one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by reactions of work. So he is not bound by the reactions of our work. So that's why, therefore, the doubts which we have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. That's what Krishna is teaching. So that is a very important thing. Tasmat ajnana sambhutam kritastam jnana asinatmanaga chitvainam samsayam yogam yogamatisto uttista. So therefore, tasmat ajnana sambhutam means which is produced from ignorance. So what is produced from ignorance? That is kritastam jnanasinatmanaga sitvainam samsayam yogam atisto bharata. So that is, Krishna is teaching us that the doubts. So the doubts which are produced in our heart. So that's what which is born of ignorance. So that means the samsayam. The samsayam is produced. So samsayam means doubt. Asamsayam means without any doubt. Krishna uses the word asamsayam many times in Bhagavad Gita when he says that if you have this knowledge, then you will come to me. There is no doubt. So without doubt. So that's what Mamevaisasi asamsayam. Krishna uses the word Mamevaisasi asamsayam. You will come to me, there is no doubt. So here Krishna is teaching us that Chitvainam samsayam. Chitvainam samsayam means we need to destroy the doubts. So that's what Chitvainam, we need to cut off, destroy the doubts. So that is possible only by Jnana Ashinatmanagam. So that is the weapon of knowledge. Asina is the weapon, Jnana is the knowledge. Jnana Asina. Jnana Asina means the weapon of knowledge. We should destroy the doubts which are born of ignorance. Ajnana Sambhutam. So the darkness, the doubts which are born of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. So then everything will be right. So that's what we are studying. So that way in the 13th chapter, what we are studying. So when Arjuna asked the question, Krishna explained that what is the Kshetrajna, everything we study. So in this sloka number 6 to 7, Krishna described what is Kshetra. So that is the 5 great elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So that's what we studied a while ago. And then false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, which refers to the 3 modes of material nature, and the 10 senses and the mind. So basically, which makes up 11. So that is Indriyani Dasa Ekam. Then the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. Then Krishna is teaching us about the knowledge. What is the knowledge? In 5 slokas, which we studied at length in the last class. So that is humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, and home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So everything, etat jnanam iti proktam, ajnanam yatato anyata. So whatever I have spoken, I have given here is knowledge. Anything other than this is ignorance. That's what Krishna is teaching us. Then Nyayam. So there is the object of knowledge. So this is the knowledge. If we follow all these things, if we have all these qualities, so that means we are in knowledge. So then we should know about the supreme God, the super soul. So that's the object of knowledge. We need to understand. We need to realize that we are not the body, we are the soul. And there is also super soul, and there is also Krishna, who is the super soul, who is seated in everyone's heart. So that knowledge also we should have. That means we should be able to see Krishna everywhere. And in his unmanifested, impersonal feature, Krishna is pervading everything in this world. So in the 9th chapter, Krishna says that Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurti. So I pervade this entire universe in my unmanifested nature. So that's what we understand. So that's what here Krishna is explaining about, that Brahman is the Nyayam. So he should be understood. So we need to know what is Brahman. So that's what Krishna is saying, that Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So everywhere are his hands, legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. So God is in full control of this material world. So everywhere Krishna's influence is there. He has this entire material world. He is conscious of everything what's happening in this world. So that's why the super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses, he is unattached. Although he is the maintainer of all living beings, he transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time he is the master of all the modes of material nature. So the supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving, because he's subtle, he's beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. So with our material eyes, we cannot see Krishna. So because he is completely spiritual and he is everywhere, he's inside, he's outside, he's very far, and he's very near. So everything, he is also near to all, although far, far away, he is also near to all. So although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he diverse and develops all. So that way Krishna is there as the super soul, as in his impersonal feature. So he is everywhere. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. Jyotisam apitat jyotis tamasa param uchyate. So he is the object of knowledge. He is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So we need to understand everything about Lord Sri Krishna. So this is the science. So this is not simply a part of some religious things. This is completely science. So this material world is in full control, under God's control, under Krishna's control. From this Bhagavad Gita, we are understanding everything. So that's why, thus the field of activities, the knowledge and the knowable. So that is the Kshetra and Jnana and the Nyayam. So the field of activities, the knowledge and the knowable, have been summarily described by me. Iti Jnanam Tatha Kshetram Iti Kshetram Tatha Jnanam Nyayam Choktam Samasatara Madbhaktaye Tat Vijnaya Madbhavaya Upapatyate Madbhavayu Upapatyate. So this is Kshetra, this is Jnana, this is Nyayam. So my devotee who understands all these things will attain my nature. That's what Krishna is saying. So not everybody can attain Krishna's nature, only Krishna's devotee who understands all these things. So that's what we finished up to in the last class. So now Krishna is continuing about the Prakriti and Purusha. So in the remaining portion of this chapter, in the 13th chapter, Krishna is explaining a lot about Purusha actually. So Prakriti Also Krishna is explaining, but we will understand Prakriti more in the 14th chapter also. So what we understand is that this material nature and the living entities should be understood as to be beginningless. So their transformations and the modes of nature, modes of matter are products of material nature. So Vidya Anadi. So Prakriti Purusham Chaiva Vidya Anadi Upapattidi. So Vidya Anadi Upavati. Vikaramscha Gunamshaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. So all these things are produced from the Prakriti. So various changes of all this nature and gunas, the three modes of nature, everything is produced from the Prakriti only. So that way what we understand is that nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So we simply call it the mother nature. So the mother nature has full control of this material world. She is also known as Durga, Mother Nature. There is Krishna is also known as Maya. So Krishna uses the word Maya. Devi Esa Gunamayi Mama Maya Turatya. So this material nature, which is the cause of all causes. So all cause of all causes. That's what we need to understand. All the work. For example, if there is a job we are applying, the job itself is created by the modes of nature only. We are simply fitting ourselves into there. So karya karana kartrutve hetu prakriti ruchati. So an action, there should be a cause to create that action. So that cause itself is created by the modes of nature, by the prakriti. And we are simply experiencing the effects of all such things. So what we understand that everything is created, the work is created, and the work is executed. So everything is done by the three modes of material nature. We are not doing anything. In fact, everything is done by this swabhava. So that's what swabhavastu pravartate. Swabhava. So na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srajati prabhu. So in this loka, in this world, so we are not creating any activity. We are not the responsible for anyone's activity also. That's what the lokasya, the people in this world. We are not causing anyone to act anything. So we are not the doer at all. So everything is, even we are not the cause for the results of our activities. Na karma pala samyogam. Everything is done by swabhavastu pravartate. Everything is from this swabhava, which is a part of the modes of nature. So this swabhava only is doing everything. So that way, the living entity is simply the cause of the various suffering and enjoyments in this world. So if we are enjoying or suffering, that is only because of ourselves, because we are responsible for that. So that is not forced upon us. We cannot simply say that why God is giving me so much of trouble and all. God is not giving, Krishna is not giving us any trouble. Krishna is simply saying that I don't accept anyone's good or bad deeds. It is simply because of their ignorance they are doing that. So we should not be ignorant. So ajnanena avritam jnanam tena mukhyanti jantavam. So our knowledge is covered by ignorance. That's why we are doing all those things. So we should get this knowledge. So then there is no problem. So the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Because we consider ourselves a part of this material world, we think that we are the material body, and we are getting ourselves developing attachments to the material sense objects. That way we come under the control of the material nature. So thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So that way we keep getting material bodies after bodies and struggling and suffering. So yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord. So we also understand in this body, not only the soul is there, which is experiencing happiness and distress, but there is a supreme enjoyer, the supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, who is there. He is simply the overseer and permitter. And that's what Upadrishta Anumanta Bharta Bhokta Mageshwaraga. Upadrishta Anumanta Cha Bharta Bhokta Mageshwaraga. Paramatmeti chapyukto deheshmin purushaga paraga. He is known as Paramatma. Paramatmeti chapyukto deheshmin purushaga param. So he is inside this body. So he is the Parama Purusha. Purushaga para. He is the supreme person. He is the super soul. So that's what Krishna. He is known as Paramatma. Param Atma means the super soul. That's what we are, Atma, and Krishna is Paramatma. So we are known as Jivatma because this material world is known as Jiva Bhutam. So that's what we are, Jivatma, whereas Krishna is Paramatma. So that way he is there. And one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, that is the Prakriti, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature, is due to obtain liberation. So if you understand all these things, so then there is a chance for us to get liberation. Not only chance, it's sure. So we will definitely get liberated once we have all this knowledge, because once we have knowledge, we are going to use that knowledge. Knowingly, nobody is going to go and fall into the ditch, fall into the hell. Knowingly, we will not put ourselves in trouble. So that's why we need to know what is right, what is wrong. If you don't know, then we will be in big trouble. So that way Krishna is saying that he will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So that's what Krishna is teaching us that. Yevam veti purusham prakritim cha gunaika saha sarvata vartamanopi nasabhuyo abhijayate. So if we know, veti means we know what is purusha, what is Prakriti, the gunas, everything. So then we are not going to come back again to this well. Then some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So all these are the things, the way we can perceive the super soul. And also others who cannot understand all these things simply by following, simply by listening to others. So again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So that's what Krishna is teaching. So now Krishna is saying that, so, O chief of the Bharatas, Bharata Sattama, so know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is the only combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So in this material world, whatever we see, so there is only Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetra is the field of activities. Kshetrajna is the knower of the field of activities. That's what, everything. In this material world, everything what we see is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Ya pasyati, sa pasyati. So means when we sees like this, he actually sees. So that way we need to understand that soul or super soul, which is inside this body, is never destroyed, which is always there. But this body is destroyed. So we need to understand the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So that way, samam pasyangi sarvatra, samavasitam iswaram. That's what Krishna is saying there. And then he will not, na hinasyati atman atmanam tatoyati paramgati. So one who sees the super soul present everywhere, samam pasyati sarvatra, samavastitam ishwaram. So he is there in all the living beings, in every living being. So na hinastyatman atmanam. So he will not degrade himself by his mind. So that's what samam pashyangi sarvatra samavastitam iswaram na hinastyatman atmanam tato yati paramgalim. So he will attain the supreme destination. That's what we should be able to see Krishna everywhere. We should be able to see the super soul Krishna, and we should be able to see each and everyone as the soul, not the body. So that way, if we are able to see everyone equally with an equal vision, so that means we will not be disturbed by our mind. We will not degrade ourselves with the mind. So that way we will reach the supreme destination. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. One who can see all activities are performed by the body. If on the opposite, if we think that everything is actually done by this body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing. So one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing. That's the very important thing, that we are not that way. So everything is done by the material nature. Everything is performed by the modes of nature, not ourselves. Only he sees. So that's what Krishna is saying. Ya pasyati tatatmanam. So akartaram, tatatmanam akartaram. So the soul is not doing anything. So that's what tatatmanam akartaram. So prakritiyevacha karmani kriyamanani sarvasam. All the activities are created by the prakriti. Prakritiyevacha karmani kriyamanani sarvasam. Yapasyati tatatmanam akartaram sapasyati. So one who sees that he is not the doer, he is actually seeing. So he sees. So if we think that we are the doer, so then we are not seeing things right way. So when a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains the Brahman conception. So that's what we need to do. So we need to see that everything is like, basically, we need to cease to see that different identities due to different bodies. So we need to see everything equally. That's what is very important. So because everywhere we need to see the soul and the super soul. So then that means he attains to the Brahman conception. So those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, or Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So that's what we need to understand. So Anaditvat nirgunatvat paramatmayam avyayagam sarirastopi kaunteya na karoti na lipti. So it is not neither doing anything and it is not bound, not entangled. So the sky, due to its subtle nature, so then Krishna is saying that the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything. That is sukshma. Sukshma is subtle. So the sky, the akasha. So yataka, which does not mix with anything. Similarly, the soul, sarvatra avasthito dehe, which is there situated in this entire body, tatatma no palipiti. That's what yata sarvagatam saukshmat akasham no palipiti. Sarvagatam saukshmat means it's all pervading, but saukshmat means it's sukshma. So that means it's subtle. The sky is all pervading. And what it means by sukshma, what is it meant by subtle? That means you cannot perceive with your material senses. So we cannot see the sky. We can see, but we cannot touch it. We cannot smell it. We cannot hear it. So that's what is the space. The space is there everywhere. So it is sukshma. So that's why sarvagatam saukshmat akasham. Saukshmat akasham no palipyate. So that way it is not mixing with anything. The space doesn't mix with anything. If in the space, my hand is here, if I move my hand over here, the space is here only. It's not mixed with anything. So like that, the soul, which is there in this entire body, it doesn't mix with the body. That's what we need to understand. So that's why tatatma no palipyate. Sarvatra avasthito dehe. So it is there in this entire body, but it is not entangled, the soul. So that's why yata sarvagatam saukshmat akasham no palipyate sarvatra avasthito dehe tatatma no palipyate. So that's why the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, those situated in that body. So then Krishna is saying that, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So that's what is happening. Once the soul leaves, when the body is not working, once the soul leaves, then there is no consciousness. So what is experienced? The consciousness, it is experienced by the soul. So consciousness is the symptom of the soul. If we lose consciousness, but we know that when we are in coma and other things, so at that time we are not conscious. That is because of, even though the soul is there, but the soul is not able to use this body. That is the main thing. It's still inside this body. But even to use this body, to feel conscious of our body, we need to all the neurons should work, because we know that how everything is like action potentials. Everything is electrical energy, basically. That's what is converted. It is transmitted, the information and everything. So when this body is, this body is functioning very well, so the soul can actually be conscious of this body. So the body, so that way the consciousness is the symptom of the soul. So when the soul is able to use this body, then we can be conscious of everything what's happened. So otherwise we will have to simply, like we say, that in a vegetative state, or we need to leave this body. So that way, as the sun alone eliminates all this universe, so does the living entity. One with the body eliminate the entire. So that's why we give so much importance to a person, with a live person. If a person is dead, he may be whatever, maybe a president or any person. We don't. Afterwards, we simply bury them or burn them. That's it. We don't give any importance to the body at all, because only the importance is given to the soul, Atma, inside this body. So those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature, attain the supreme goal. It's a very important science. Krishna is teaching us that kshetragnyayor evam antaram jnana chakshusha. So again, jnana chakshusha. Jnana chakshusha means the eyes of knowledge, the vision of knowledge. When we are able to understand, we are able to see the difference between body and the knower of the body. There is kshetra and kshetragnyayor evam antaram jnana chakshusha. Bhuta prakriti moksham cha. So we will be this. The Bhuta is the living entity, will be freed from this material world. So ye vidur yanti te param. So they will understand, you know that they will approach me, they will come to me. So those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of a liberation from bondage in material nature. That's what Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha. So they know, so they will actually yanti te param. So they will reach the supreme person. So that's what attain the supreme goal. That's what Krishna is teaching. So this is such a very important science, this Bhagavad Gita. We are understanding about Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, Nyaya, Prakriti, Purusha, and everything. So by Krishna's causeless mercy, we have successfully finished the 13th chapter. So next week we will study the 3 modes of material nature. The entire 14th chapter is the 3 modes of material nature. Now let us chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and focus our mind on the transcendental sound vibration. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swami Niti Nami. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Nami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmiritam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You could hear everything clearly. You understood everything today.
I could hear everything. I keep, however, coming back to a curiosity. I've asked about it before, but I keep coming back to it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
So if taking birth and aging and death in this material world is, I don't know if calling it evil is quite the right word, but it's something to be avoided, and we're supposed to seek Krishna and return to him.
Yes.
Why did Krishna make this material world and living things to suffer in it in the first place? What was the motivation or the relevance or the importance of doing so?
And this question is a really important question, but unfortunately, we don't have answer for that. But the answer can be given in using in a different way. First of all, like now, anyhow, he has given us the knowledge to solve the problem. So now we know that we need to realize and understand that we are in trouble. That we need to know. So now we need to, even to solve this problem, also this Bhagavad Gita is the solution manual. The complete path is shown here, how to reach Krishna. So now we know that we are in trouble and we need to save ourselves. We need to liberate ourselves from this material world. And this question is a very important question. If this can be answered, so then the other question, whatever you asked, also we can try to find an answer for it. So are we ready? Are we ready to accept, understand, accept the entire thing in Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says, and ready to follow everything what Krishna says, and simply ready to go to Goloka, that is Krishna's spiritual well, and enjoy there forever. So are we ready? So there is a question. How many of us in this material well are ready? The statistics we already know that only 1 in 1,000 will endeavor for perfection. Manushyanam sagaseshu kaschit yatati siddhi. So that what it shows is that we are all other 999 out of 1,000 are not willing to, not ready to accept the truth, the fact that we are the soul and Krishna is the super soul. So we want to lord ourselves over everything. We want to become ourselves. So that is the thing we are trying to achieve in this material way. So everything what we want to try to do is that I want to control everything. So I am everything. So that's what we call it as ego, false ego, ahankara. So that unless we lose ahankara, we cannot go to Krishna's way. So that may give us an indication that originally we don't know where we are, how we came here, all such things. The answer, there is no answer here given in Bhagavad Gita. But one thing we know that we have that ahankara. Due to that ahankara, we are in this material world. And we are ignorant due to not having this knowledge, not able to understand. If we simply have faith, we will get this knowledge. That's it. There is no other qualification is needed as we studied today. So if we simply don't have faith and we want to control everything and we think that we are great and we identify ourselves with this body. So if we go and take this knowledge, we tell them, come, understand this Bhagavad Gita, become a student of this knowledge and become a devotee of Krishna. We can go to Goloka and enjoy. People simply say that, oh, this is all fake. So whatever, this is all myth. So how can I believe it? All such things are. Even though it is science, even though we study and understand this entire Bhagavad Gita as science, it's perfect science actually. It makes very much perfect sense actually. Like the way we theorize, even in physics and everything, quantum physics or any science or even the electrons, the existence of electrons, even though we have not seen electrons, we know that by theory we are able to observe and practice. We are able to experiment and we are able to find out the effects of the presence of the neutrons, the nucleus and the electrons, all such things, all such understanding is based upon our observation, experimental observation, the results, but not by ourselves actually seeing it. The same concept, if you apply here, the soul is also like that. So we are not the body, we are the soul, and how the mind is controlled by this, what is the effect of controlling our mind, making our mind as the best friend, and the relationship between the senses, intelligence, mind, and everything, buddhi, all such things, basically, we can observe, we can practice. This entire Bhagavad Gita is a practical manual. Actually, we need to follow in our life. So then our life will be very peaceful and blissful. Then we can simply detach ourselves from everything in this material world. So our mind can be fully engaged, fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, so that we don't have to remember about anything in this material world. So that way at the time of death, we will not get another material body. So what body we are going to get, it's all depends upon what our mind is going to remember at the time of death. So if we simply have faith on this, how many of us are ready to accept and understand? So that's where the answer lies for your question, that we simply, because of our ignorance, we are here. But originally we don't know. Like, it is something like, I always give this example, like when the house is under fire, so we don't know at that point of time immediately how it caught fire. So there is no point. Already this house is under full fire, it is burning. So at that time, there is no point in trying to figuring it out and finding it out what is the source of fire. We have to escape ourselves. That is the main thing. We need to save ourselves. That is the main thing. So this example applies to every. When we are in danger, when we are in trouble, and first immediately save ourselves, and then we can find out the root cause of that. So similarly, for at this point of time, even though we don't know exactly how it originally started, and there is no such answer is not given in Bhagavad Gita, but we know that we are in trouble, we are in problem, and we need to save ourselves. And then, of course, when we reach Krishna who knows everything. So at that point of time, we will find out what originally caused us to come under the control of this material nature and things like that. But I don't have a straightforward answer for your question. You understand that what I'm trying to convey, correct?
Yeah. And the example of the house fire is helpful.
Yes. That is the thing, yeah.
That's the only question I have today.
Yeah, I think we are making good progress. So yeah, we'll continue. So I think we need to, I don't know,